Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Gibb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program on this Wednesday, covering the topic, covering natural health, and the topic is price of healthcare, medication, surgery, regulated by open market demand, or open market or demand, consumer demand. So this is still looking at libertarian teachings, and welcome again. Hopefully, the blessing that rest. You ready to take on the challenges of today? Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessings of your word, and I pray that you may be with us, dear Father, as we look in these topics, and may you bless our minds, dear Lord, that we might stay clear of these false teachings. May you be with us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. So, price of healthcare or medication or surgery, should this be regulated by the open market or consumer demand? I'm looking still here at libertarian teachings. And most naturally this week, I'm still exploring the problems with libertarian teaching about let the free market decide. Let the free market decide who should be in business and not the government or regulators until they poison us all. So very important to consider this, and this is important in light of even many of the things that's going on in the world and some of the articles I'm going to share with you today. So my main premise for today is pain, depression, broken bone, bruises, and addiction creates powerful consumer demand like nothing can. Is there a reasonable price to relieve pain, the relief of pain? So is there a reasonable price? So remember the libertarian teaching, I'm wilting it down to the simplicity of what it is because it's a simplistic, silly concept, which is no regulation by government, no oversight, no regulators. Just have the free market, the consumer or the free market decide what's the value of something. And then there is no oversight. And so if something is bad, let the consumer decide. And we see the trouble with this when we look at health. Because when we look at health, we're looking at something that is going to drive consumer driving now. What's the price? And so in our society today, we have a runaway healthcare problems. Let's call it that, because some of it is the consumer freedom to basically is their liberty to eat themselves to 600 pounds to a ton, half a ton. And so that's problematic. So when we're in pain, what is the price to relieve that pain? What is the price you're willing to pay to release that pain? When you're depressed, what is the price to lift that depression? How much you'll pay for cocaine or for any legal drugs, that's an upper. When you have a broken bone, what is the price you pay to set that bone? And if make the free market or consumer demand, well, how much the consumers are going to be willing to pay when they're screaming? Also, when it comes on to bruises, and when it comes on to addiction, what is the price when a person needs to satisfy the addiction? They feel like they're going to die without the drugs, or they're really in need of it and the body's calling for it and they can't resist. What are they willing to pay? So consumer demand or the open market becomes a disaster in that situation, because this is beyond what the consumer is an addict. And this is the reality. So when we talk about libertarian principles, it sounds pretty, but you're going to see today how, right now, the problem with it. So we're exploring this. And my main text is in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 33 through 37. And it says, if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, you shall not vex him. So again, we pause there, since you're familiar with the text. So when a stranger dwell within your land, the Bible says you shall not vex the stranger. Because that's massive consumer demand when you're in a foreign country and you're living among foreigners and you're at the mercy of somebody. Their ability to vex you and to mess you up is massive. And so what you're willing to pay, if they know, look, he's going to pay what I want him to pay, what are you willing to pay? So if you apply libertarian principles to a person as a foreigner, it doesn't work, because the person as a foreigner is in a very precarious situation, between a rock and a hard place. And they can be abused easily. And people who are doing business know what they're going to do anyhow about it. They can't go to the government for recourse of grievance, because they might go to the government say, oh, you're in the country legal, and you're deported. So they know that. And you see in America here and the world over, they abuse foreigners. And so the Lord said to the Jewish people, don't do this because you know how you were abused by the Egyptians. Don't follow suit. And it's the same thing I say here to you. And especially if you were from African descent, you know how you were abused here in America or wherever you were from in the Western world, if you were in the Western world. So you don't repeat the same wickedness that they did to you. Because when a person is a foreigner, they are at the mercy in a massive way to the natives. So market demand does not work. Libertarian principle fall apart here because now you can't apply free market policies to this because there's no such thing as free market. A person is in a bad situation. Notice here verse 34. But the stranger that dwell with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. For ye are strangers in the land of Egypt. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. I've never heard this preached in church. Oh, except myself. Never heard this mentioned. This text is totally ignored. And I wonder why. Never heard it. Not even past reading. You would never know it's in the Bible. Because imagine if you had to tell the citizens that go to church that they're supposed to treat foreigners as one of their own, as one born in their house, as a child. It is, you shall love him as yourself. You would never be able to have the wickedness that happened in the name of Jesus with the cross as a banner in the world. It would never happen. So the preachers had to. I'm always fascinated when I hear some of the wicked people in the society say they go to church or they're religious. I'm always fascinated, especially the Abrahamic religion. So that's Muslim, Jewish, and Christians. Fascinate me. I'm always look at them and I'm just always in amazement. Like, wow, you have to ignore most of the Bible. So notice here. So libertarian principles fall apart with this text alone, right? Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meter yard, in weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weight, a just ephah, a just hin shall you have. I am the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt. So it's a constant reminder. So this probably won't make much sense. It should make sense to everybody because everybody was at one point beaten up. You know, as I say, if a person is white and they're in America, most of their forefathers were fleeing from the tyranny of the King of England and the Pope, and they came here to have freedom. So it would be the same thing. God would say, "You remember what they did to you in Europe? Please have mercy upon well, he doesn't say please. It says, I'm your God that deliver you. So do likewise." And the same thing with the Jewish people. You know, think about the Jewish people as any group, like any other group, beyond any other group. They should be able to understand this. And yet, they're ones that are known to be the most egregious. As a matter of fact, the person that made me wanted to do this, I always wanted to do this talk on libertarianism because I always thought it was silliness. And it was recently watching a Jewish person, a Jewish business person, doing an interview. And I was like, I can't believe this person is so crazy. And so this text is so appropriate. So appropriate. So I'm the Lord your God. In other words, there's other texts in the Bible where God says you can't have two different weights in your bag. If you have a pound weight, you go weigh something a pound, you gotta have a pound. No two different pound. You know, so one is a pound. It says pound. It's literally a pound. And it's a pound of weight, metal. And then the other one is probably 75% or 80% of a pound. And it says a pound. So it depends on the customer. You pull out which one. Can't do this. You shouldn't do this if you're a Christian. You can't do it. You can't be an evildoer and claim to be Christianity. This is what most of the world does. Verse 37 says, "Therefore ye shall observe all my statutes and all my judgments, and do them. I'm the Lord." He keeps saying, "I'm the Lord." Now, why does he say I'm the Lord? Because as I say, just like what they say, let the free market decide. Also, there's a saying that you can find online that let the free market eat the rich, eat the powerful, should eat them. They should, every time they try to put the system back together, it must fall apart because they're not doing right. They keep stealing the money with these tax bailout and tax cut for the rich and COVID-19 bailout and all this bailout. But all the bailouts is mainly going to the rich. We're going to cover some of that tomorrow. So I believe in regulations. I believe in a body to go to, like a government. I believe in all that because without that, Jim Crow, slavery, all that stuff would be going on. They would never have stopped it. If it wasn't for war and bloodshed, they would continue. They would have continued. And if you listen to them today, they would continue. It's clear in my mind. Nothing would have changed because even if you ask for certain changes, they still don't want to. That's why people have to be out there protesting against police brutality because they don't want to change. They really want to murder us all. So notice here, and I really believe that if it wasn't for certain reasons, they would never stop. They've and their foreparents been doing this thing for a while. Now notice here, this is in an economic on a free market. So I'm reading what a libertarian concept is. In economics, a free market is a system in which the price of goods and services are self-regulated by the open market and by consumers. In a free market, the laws and force of supply and demand are free from any intervention by a government or other authority and from all forms of economic privilege, monopolies, and artificial scarcity. So this is the concept. So this is not possible in a wicked world that we live, where men are evil and corrupt. Not going to be possible. And none of us just happen onto the planet. We are born from parents who has a history. And they have a history. Their foreparents have a history. And everybody foreparents have a history. So just the whole concept of it is free from all forms of economic privilege. It's not possible. Everybody's going to have an advantage. One person going to have an advantage over another. Everybody has an advantage or disadvantage. And if you're going up against something that has an advantage, so if you decide you want to do the best search engine, well, somebody has the advantage. You have a lot of work on your hand. Good luck. From no monopolies, there are monopolies. You want to get into the cell phone business, good luck for you. You're going to have a hard time. No artificial scarcity, good luck with that. They can park stuff in warehouses and create scarcities. And then when the scarcity is driven up the price, then they dump the stuff on the market and collect big money. It's just the corrupt world we live in. So it is. We don't go over this because we don't want to talk about corrupt world. I'm going over it with you because just in case you might listen to and might think, oh, look at that beautiful principle that Rand Paul, the senator and governor, senator and congressman are spouting. No, I need to tell you, their principles are bankrupt. That's why I'm going over this, because I want you to accept them and then go try to live by them. Because notice in economics, a free market is a system in which the price of goods and services are self-regulated by the open market and by consumers. So it's not really so. Because you're going to have an open market where there's certain people are blocked from the market. You have whole countries on an economic blockade and embargoes. You have a whole group of people can't participate in the economy because they're blocked from it. So there's no such thing as a free market. America is not a free market because blacks for years have been blocked from the market and been done all kind of stuff to stop them from blocked from the market. So this is silly talk here. This is hypothetical, utopian talk. In a free market, the law of force of supply and demand are free from any intervention by government or other authorities. And that's not true because government applies tariffs. There's tariffs being hit against China and all kind of different tariffs. Certain things, they block certain imports to protect local market. So there's no such thing as a purely free market because there's government intervention, good or bad, agree or disagree. But I'm just saying. But this is just a definition that I put out there. So I say all of that to say now, here's the problem, to me, the main problem, which I know sometimes I wonder if I should have said this from Monday, but I have to kind of lay out the foundation so you kind of get an idea what I'm talking about. So now, libertarianism. Here's the crux of the matter. A thief robs the wealth and land, then say, let us practice free market principle, what we call libertarianism. Or even capitalism. It applies to both. But we're just talking about libertarianism. So the thief now, he robs everything. He takes all the wealth and he takes all the land. He has the land in his in control and he has the wealth. Then the thief says, right? All right, say a free market principle. So let us compete in an open market and let us see who is best. Is that an open market? Is that a free competition? Is that a fair competition? The thief robbed everything now because this is what happened in our history. This is our history. This is all of us history. Whatever side we're on the side of the thieves or on the side of the regular people that's being told to compete. When you look at a free trade agreement, free trade, imagine you do a free trade now where two countries open up their market. So say there's Jamaica and Britain, right? So I'm talking about what I know. And Jamaica and Britain say, hey, look, we need to compete. We need to have an open market. We need to have free trade amongst us. Let's just open up the market. And you people against my people. Now, Britain had enslaved Jamaica, colonized Jamaica, Jim Crow Jamaica, the whole thing. And now and Jamaica is indebted because of the World Bank and IMF. Never gave the resource to be at the right competitiveness and still have a structure of government that is oppressive to the natives, the regular people, not the rich people or the kids of the slave. So that's Jamaica said it. Now imagine now they have to compete in an open market. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Britain has all the money, all the industrialization, hundreds of years, over 2,000 years of build-up and development. Who is going to win? I say that's the problem with libertarian. If you don't see the problem, I'm going to tell you the problem. The problem is one is way ahead of the game. It's like you have a 100-meter race and somebody at the 90-meter and you at the 0. And the gun go out, pow! Who's going to win? The person at the 10-meter has 10 meters to go. He can just walk and he still win. And you at 100, you're running like crazy and you can't catch up with him. He said, what's happening? Because he has all of that ahead of you. That's not an open market. There's no libertarianism. And that's what libertarianism propose. If you listen to them on the surface, you don't even have to go deep into their teaching. And I've listened to them and hear them over the years. It sounds beautiful. Oh, we should have free market. We should not regulate anything. And yeah, when you already have all the land, you stole all the land, you robbed all the wealth, and you have over 200 years or over 2,000 years of development. Now you're telling me, compete open my market up. And now you have means and ways to cheat the system, to rob the system. And you say, well, it's libertarianism. It's not libertarianism, it's wickedness. It's wickedness from these evildoers. So again, I'm going to say it again, because there's no other way to say it. And you can, if you have, as I say, if you can show me a iota of where I'm wrong, I'll learn, I'll listen. But I've looked at it for years. I can't see it. Again, a thief robs the wealth. So he has all the capital. And he robs all the land. And then he says, we must do farming and we must compete. And you'll be like, okay. So I'm gonna compete. I'm gonna grow on half an acre, and you're gonna grow on 1,000 acres. And let the free market decide what's the value of the product. Who's gonna win? I have half acre growing, he has 1,000 acres. Who's gonna win? And who can affect the price? Who can decide that, no, I'm gonna sell it at this price per bushel? You wipe me out. I can't compete against him. He's gonna win. There's an unfair competition. You can't win. And that's why if you look at the history, there was just no winning for certain people. But they say, oh, that win, they see they're losing because they see their brain is more like a chimpanzee. Nah, it's because you're cheating. It's just you're unfair and you're a cheat. You don't really want a fair competition. See, a fair competition would be, let's redistribute that land. Give me half the land and you have half the land. Let's compete and see who wins. You say, oh, no, we can't do that. I'm going to get to that in a second. So the thief robs the wealth. Then say, let us practice a free market principle where we compete in an open market. Let's see who is best. See, that's not an open market. That's just wickedness. And this is what is going on all over the world with all these free trade agreements. It's just total wickedness. The poor people can't survive. They can't win because you have massive machinery where you can use satellite to guide your tractors. Just imagine that, guided tractors, and you could be growing 5,000 acres, and you have machinery guide. You don't have to put human beings in the machines, except for certain tasks. And this man here has backhoe, not even backhoes are. He has a pickaxe, a shovel, and stuff like that. And he's growing and he's doing his thing. And he's going to try to produce at this, say $80 a bushel as an example of whatever you're doing. And you come in and say, I'm going to do it for $10 a bushel because I have machinery. And I can do that for 5 years until he bankrupt doing his little backhoe, his pickaxe, and his shovel. Then after 5 years, he needed $90 a bushel or say $80 a bushel. I can do it for $10 a bushel for 5 years. And for 5 straight years, I sell it below what he can't even sell that price to stay afloat. This is literally what happened. So he can't sell that price. So you flood the market with this chemically filled, chemical-laced, cheap stuff that's going to kill the people anyhow. And he can't even eat at that price. So he give up and he say, no, I'm going to join the migrant train. I'm going to head into America because I can't even survive in my poor South American, Central American country. This is wickedness. Then now, after 5 years of flooding the market and destroy the competition, and Walmart does this, all these big companies do this. Then he says, okay, I'm not ready to sell at $90 a bushel. So everybody said, how you sell at 90? Oh, he said, no, I just artificially kept the price down because I went to my congressman and I made sure he secured a loan for me that I could stay afloat and destroy my competition for the last 5 years. And now I have to sell now, say at $90 a bushel or $100 a bushel, even $160 a bushel to cover back my losses for those 5 years while I was destroying my competition. Then now I'm making money. I'm the king of the hill. So it wasn't a farming competition. It was a maneuver competition because you have all the capital and you have the land, you have the equipment, you have a head start because the world didn't start today. It started with a history of slavery, Jim Crow, all this stuff. So you got to understand that. And if you don't understand it, you can't get why it's not a fair competition. But somebody comes and say, oh no, we should have a free market and let the consumer regulate. The consumer is not choosing. The consumer don't know what's going on. They don't have the understanding and the history behind them. They don't understand that. So you're just pure evil. Notice here, no government regulation they'll ask for, right? Except the government protect property rights, patent rights, and trade agreements. So that's all what the government's supposed to do because the government has the military. So you see, they're slick, right? These are some of these are people with forked tongues. Because notice what they say. We only want the government to protect property rights. Now, why would they want only property rights? Why did they just steal all the property? They didn't pay for it fair and square. It was stolen land. So they want the government only to protect them when it comes on to property rights. Get that? You see the trickery there? So we go and compete in a fair market, but you can't get no property. I have all the property. And the property that I can't control, I make it into a national reserve. I make it into a park. I make it into a national park. So you never can get the property. Now go ahead and compete. And they're watching you working hard, toiling, killing yourself. They're looking at you like, look at this fool. We're beating him, whipping him. You don't even see what's going on. We control this. I think it was Joe Biden said about 4 years ago. He said, not only do we run the race, but we control the finishing line. So you could be running and they're like, whoop, no, the finishing line is now over there. And you run, whoop, oh, it's over here. And he said, that's what he said. We control the finishing line. So we decide if you win or not. You see, so you could say no government regulations except property rights. Why property rights? Because like in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in all these different countries, property rights become key because we took it all. And we took all the fertile land. We just want the government to protect that. And we're winning all day long, baby. Notice here, patent rights or patent rights. So whoever had a patent on something, But then you go back in history, you find out that many of these things were invented by certain people and they were robbed of their patents. Somebody took it and made the money. But free market, free competition. Not true. Notice your trade agreement. Because again, if I sign a trade agreement with you, remember, because the whole idea of let the market decide is that a person could be in a disadvantage because they have not enough information. So say I'm doing business with you and I didn't know. And I feel so sad sometimes when I look at this history and this current situation because most people don't know that the people they're signing with, imagine somebody come to me and say, Lloyd, I'm Libertarian and I want to sign an agreement with you. If I don't know what that means, I'm going to be whipped. Then I need to go back to now to the government and say, government, listen, man, I didn't really know what this guy meant when he says libertarian. I didn't know that means he's a crook. I need to break the agreement. And he goes to the government and say, all you need to do, government, is protect my free trade with this guy. You need to enforce it. You see how they go? So boom, they got you. Because you don't know. Because remember, in the past, nobody knew that every trade agreement, every treaty that was signed was going to be broken. Because you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know that they're just making you, they're just playing the fool. It's part of the game. It's just they see it as all fair. They don't see treaties as valuable. They never saw. This is why you notice the moment the president came in, he started talking about let's break all the treaties. Because treaties never mattered to them. The aim is just to win. The aim is there's no treaty. There's never been a treaty. It's just as a ploy to win. So if you're signing a treaty with somebody, you understand that's their word to tell you to make you feel good. When I was growing up, they would say a saying. They say a promise is a comfort to a fool. You ever heard that saying? That's saying something that was beating my mind. A promise is a comfort to a fool. Right? That's it. You take a promise from certain people, you're a fool. Look at the history. The history is that they never kept one. So there's somebody talking about libertarian stuff. It's a joke. You can't listen to them. Remember, we're still talking about health. You'll see it in a second. Powerful. Remember, we're talking about making a deal. As I say, you never make a deal with the devil. So a promise is a comfort to a fool, right? Good morning, good morning. So a promise is a comfort to a fool. So you're looking at now, and they say we want you to enforce a trade agreement because as long as they're winning, but the moment they're losing, they say break the trade agreement, and they'll push the government to break it, but never when they're winning, because the aim is only to win. They don't care. Everything's employed to win. So remember the price now. So we're still on here, and before I jump to here, I just want to make sure I cover okay. Regulators, and then supply and demand. So now here goes the point now. So just imagine now, with all of that said, you understand that baseline information. You have these corrupt chemical companies like Standard Oil and all these companies back at the turn of the century. Not this century, but the previous century. And these corrupt chemical companies won the all drugs, no natural remedies debate. So when you think about that, so early 1900, you used to have natural therapy, natural remedies, natural treatment, hydrotherapy, all these things. You used to have sanitariums, health clinics, all this type of stuff. The drug companies got in, the chemical companies that made coal tar derived vitamins, minerals, all that stuff. They got into the medical world thingy to produce what we call modern day pharmacia. And they're producing these chemicals. And now they had to win the war against natural, which they won. It was totally won in America. It's not won in other countries as complete as it's won in America. So in America, these chemical companies won the war. There was a war. Even if the natural people didn't know, they went at war. And they systematically planned to make sure that when you think health, or you think about sickness, or you're sick, the only thing you think about is to take drugs. That's what it is in America. And you see this prominently with coronavirus, right? With coronavirus, it's drug in America. In like China, they use natural remedies. They say up to 90% of all people that go into the hospital get natural remedies, get things like astragalus, they get licorice, and certain other herbs in tea form and tincture form and decoction. But here in America, it's only drugs. So remember, they're industrial power. America's an industrial power. They sit on the UN, permanent, council or whatever it is. But that war was not fought properly there. So they still do both. But here, no, it's 100% drugs. Everything is drugs. If you feel sick, drugs. If you feel depressed, drugs. Everything is drugs. So that war was won. So imagine now the war is won and it's history. You go, as I say, if I bring you 100 Americans today and I ask them about this, they don't know nothing about, probably 2 or 3, probably. I don't even know 5. We know that was at one point a war. That was a discussion, so to speak, a fight. And the chemical companies won. Most people don't know this. So when you think about a doctor, even 100 years ago, it's different from a doctor today. A doctor today, if anything wrong with you, drugs. There's nothing. He's not going to tell you drink water, exercise. Probably some of them will. So something happened and the war was won. So now going forward now, which is to me so powerful of a reality. Going forward now, because the debate is done. So now if you say let the market, the consumer, the open market, let the consumer or the open market decide which drug company is the best for the people. Do you see the problem there? You can communicate in the air. I won't hear you, but I feel it. Do you see the problem there? Because I say, if you go to the 100 people in America, you say, do you know that at one point there was a war and the drug companies won out and that's the only option? Option is you're supposed to have 2 choices. So if you go, they don't know this. So if you now say, let the consumer decide what is best, and let them pick the winners or losers. Do you see the problem? Do you see it? Because now the consumer is going to choose what is best for them. But what does the consumer know? The consumer only know that drug baby is just only drugs. You take drugs until you're blue in the face. For everything. Whether you need it or not. There's no other option. So the consumer, in a libertarian principle, is choosing what's best. The consumer is deciding what is best for them. But the consumer is only choosing between what was won out. Because the consumer thinks this is the only way to do life. Say my back hurts, I need drugs. If I feel depressed, I need drugs. If I have any problem in my body, liver, kidney, heart, whatever, if I have even coronavirus, drugs. I'm waiting for the vaccine. So all I need is drugs. And that's it. The consumer doesn't know that there was a war fought. The consumer is choosing between good and best, not knowing that there's another option. So they'll say, well, probably Eli Lilly, probably Novartis, probably it's Dow Chemicals, it's probably Bayer. It's probably one of these companies. We're going to choose which one is the best. So somebody say, oh no, my favorite is Bayer, or my favorite is Johnson & Johnson, my favorite. And you're like, so your favorite is not Echinacea or Golden? Say, oh no, what is that? We don't take that. That's bush. We take clinically proven, double-blind, placebo, cross-randomized, trialed, vivo, in vivo, in vitro. That's what we talk about. But they don't know. Because the war is done, and we're dealing a post-war, after the war is finished. And so the industry had won the debate. And the industry had corruptly pay off and bribe and control the Senate and the Congress, and they won that debate. So anything that was natural to do with any disease was literally could be arrested and investigated and destroyed and run out of the literal country. So that's what happened. And so now, if you apply the principle, the thief went in and he robbed everything. Then he said, let the free market decide, let the consumer decide. Consumer don't know nothing. He don't know what's going on. So it's an unfair, let the consumer decide. Then if you say, well, at the open market, well, now go back to my top now. If the open market is going to decide, how the open market going to decide when a person is in pain? And they don't know there's not anything natural to take for the pain. And they're going to take drugs, and the drugs are actually powerful, addictive substance that's going to make them druggies. So now they're going to be hooked up on opiates. But these people only know that there's only one option for pain. And it's whatever the pharmaceutical or chemical companies, if you want to call them, are putting out. If a person is depressed, they only know only one thing, is what the chemical companies are putting out. And so they're going to have a demand. And they're going to say the price of that stuff, oh, that stuff is sweet. That should be very expensive. And who's really setting the price? Is it because they say we don't want the regulators set the price. We don't want the government get involved. We want the consumer. And that consumer now is high on a drug that they started taking for pain, but now they're taking it because they're high as a kite. And the consumer is saying, I'm willing to sell my house. As a matter of fact, I don't even have a house. I sold it. What am I talking about? I lost everything because I can't even work because I just want to get up every day and I just want to float. I want to be numb. This is good stuff here, right here. So what's the real value of that? Can an open market decide that? No. Can you leave it unregulated? Because what I'd shown with the opioid crisis in America is that it was unregulated. And the doctors was doing a free-for-all, eating their fellow human beings, just flooding this community and society with drugs. So it shows you that an unregulated system, because of sin, is a mess. Because the government literally didn't regulate it, because the government was busy regulating who? Come on now, give me the answer. Who were they regulating? Who were they investigating for drug use, for marijuana use? While the doctors who were unregulated were in a libertarian system, run amok, and just put a whole bunch of people on these little candies. And they say, come and get your candies because it's going to be great. So you see now, so the free market system, this capitalist system where certain people already have the capital, and then it's a fight between who has the most capital to fight against each other. They eat each other and they're eating each other as we speak, creating pure dead bodies amongst their fellow human beings. And no regulation from the government. Now, the government was regulating, but as I say, they were busy regulating the true criminals in the society, the black people. Them. So notice here, if you have a broken bone and you want that bone to fix, and the doctors say, well, you have a car. I'll take your car and I'll get rid of the pain for you. Are you going to say, doctor, that's too expensive? You're going to say, man, fix my broken bone. Here's the title. You have the car. As a matter of fact, you have the debt also. You have to pay for the debt. Notice here, bruises. When you have a bruise, you're paying somewhere to get rid of that. How much you going to pay? What's the real value of the product? Based upon your pain. So when we talk about the open market, you can manipulate the consumer based upon how much pain they're feeling. When people are depressed, how much pain they're feeling. You don't know because that's hard to assess. And people just want to be happy. And if you tell them, look, I have this happy drug for you here. You take this thing, you'll feel so good. The person will be like, I'm willing to take it, doctor. How much it cost? And the doctor said, well, yesterday it cost $1,000, but today it's $2,000. And the person, man, I'm so depressed. I'll pay you $2,000. See, that's the consumer demand. Is that really a consumer demand? Or is there sick people who need help? You see? Is there sick people who need help? That easily to be manipulated and to say, well, it's their demand. No, it's a doctor demand, because the doctor demand is like, man, I need a new yacht. That $10 million yacht I has is not good enough. And they see you're depressed, they'll be like, man, you want to be happy? You can help me buy this yacht, right? So it's not really the consumers demanding it. It's the doctor. You see, you saw yesterday the bombing that went down. Now, if that bombing is an accident, you can see how powerful chemicals are. And in the hand of wrong people or stupid people, whichever way, it's very powerful. can cause a lot of damage. And what we're dealing with is the chemical companies. They won. And now they have the American public at their whims. And whatever they feel like they want to do, they can do it. And they can wipe out whole communities. Because what happened? We all experience some level of pain, depression, brokenness, bruised. And we can be addicted because we all have an addictive side. And they can use the addiction against you, right? And these chemicals, they almost all are addictive. So that's fascinating because a lot of these chemicals that you ever see, like the chemicals used to treat AIDS, some of those antiretroviral drugs, they're actually powerful addictive chemicals. So now the person like, I have AIDS. Hey, doctor say, I have something for you, baby. He said, you have AIDS? I'm going to give you this thing here. This thing here will keep you alive. Next thing the doctor is like, man, I'm making so much money off you. What happened? You keep using this thing. Oh, yeah, because it make me feel so good. Give me a cute high. Now, is that the consumer driving the demand? Is that the open market? Is that a free market, or is that manipulation of corrupt people? So you can have a fight, and the fight is already won. As I say, the person took all the land. Then the person said, let's compete as a farmer. You can't compete against that person. That person's a criminal. How are you going to compete against a criminal? You work for all year long, and he can go and rob 2-3 days, and he make more money than you work all day long. You can't win. Can't win. No, you can't win. There's a way. We've seen it. God is a way. You know, I was growing up, they used to say, while men are planning, God is wiping out. So God wiped them out. And you see they keep getting wiped out and they keep stealing. Stealing is getting more rapid. It's like almost like a rapid fire. It is now seem to be repeating itself every few years. Because they come up with some corrupt plan to steal the taxpayer money. I'm going to talk about tomorrow about how they socialize their laws. And then they get wiped out again. Then they steal more. They get wiped out again. They steal. They can't stop because they're trying to hold on to stolen money. And they keep slipping them away. So this is why now they don't want any intervention. Because what it is now, the government as a way that it can come in and it can level the playing field. The government can say, we're going to regulate. The government said, we're going to break up your monopoly. Y'all conspiring together to steal the public. We're going to come in and we're going to start arresting these pharmaceutical companies and these doctors because they basically conspiring against the community so they can get rich. And this is what happened recently. This is what's happening right now. So that's where the problem is. So the price of healthcare, medication, surgery, if it's regulated by the open market and consumer the demand, this is a disaster. There should be somebody should be looking over it. As I say, if you look yesterday at what happened with that bombing in Lebanon, and you think about that thing that happened in Lebanon, if it was an accident, we're just going to go by the premise as an example. If it was an accident, because I'll give you an example of what's going on here. When Timothy McVeigh blew up the Oklahoma City bomb, he did the Oklahoma City bombing. He did it with 7,000 pounds of explosive, which is 3.5 tons. And he did it with 1.5, ton. 3,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate, which was what blew up, they said yesterday. So we're just going to go by that. Say it was ammonium nitrate and say it was 2,750 tons stored, which is mind-boggling. Because remember, he blew off the face of that building and blew out the windows of Timothy McVeigh, that is, blew out the windows, 260 something or 70 something of the buildings, got their glass blown out. So for massive area, with only 3.5 tons. That thing yesterday, they says, if it's what happened, was 2,700 and something tons. That is, if that's the right number that I saw yesterday, that is amazing amount of ammonium nitrate. That's like 200. It would be say each ton is a pallet. That's over 2,000 something pallets sitting there. You can't imagine the force of that. That is some unbelievable force. Now, what's the point? The point is that's where your problem with open market. Because without no regulators, without somebody being paid night and day to watch people who are either wicked or stupid, you're going to have bad results in the society. If you look at the opiate crisis, you realize it was people, somebody wasn't doing their job. Somebody was busy arresting black young men for marijuana while not watching the doctors and the pharmaceutical companies. It's to me, it's how God settled the score. It was wickedness they were doing, and they got the payback for the wickedness. And this is why you need regulation. You see, this is why people who are wicked and corrupt, they like the concept of libertarianism or freedom to do whatever, whenever they want to do it. But what it is not just sometimes people are wicked, sometimes people are stupid. And that's where you need regulation. Not just because somebody want to do something corrupt, but sometimes people are very stupid. Like, why would you put in the heart of a city at the port, store ammonium nitrate, something that is so volatile that if it catch fire, it's lights out. It's just dead bodies everywhere. So if it was, just going by the premise as an example, and I'm going to go to some articles here before I run too much of time. If it was an accident and it really was stored there, this is amazing lack of regulation. Certain things should not be in nowhere where there's anywhere near residential, even if the residential is not far away. Because as I say, if you look at the Oklahoma City bombing, it was 7,000 pounds, 3,000 something kilograms of bomb making stuff. There was 3 different bomb making stuff he used, but the half of it was ammonium nitrate. And you see the sheer force of what they did. And if this is what happened, if it was, say it was a bomb, then, it's a different story. But say it comes out that is really ammonium nitrate, that would be amazing crazy for them to have that thing so near at that force. Because I say, if that is it, that's like 2,400 and something skid loads of that stuff to be stored. That's crazy. That's crazy. So you need regulations. You need what it is that we don't need less government intervention. We need more. We just need less corrupt government intervention. It's not a problem of regulation. It's a problem of corrupt regulation. It wasn't a problem of the war on drugs. It was a problem of the war on drugs was primarily focused on black people. That was the problem. Problem it was they see they never pay attention to the doctors. The doctor end up killing their own kids. But that's how life is. That's how it's supposed to go. Because while you're there to mind your own business, you mind somebody else's business, your business fall apart. You dig a pit, then you fall into the pit. Enjoy your pit, man. So that's the problem. So notice here, won't read the articles here, but I'll just talk a little bit about piece of these articles. They'll just show you the importance as an example of why libertarian principles don't work. You can't make the consumer because the consumer cannot. Look at this. Ground beef recall 2020. So JBS Foods Canada recalled more than 38,000 pounds of meat. So see why see this is an example why and this is from USA Today. So more than 38,000 pounds of ground beef is being recalled because it was not presented for import reinspection in the United States. The Department of Agriculture, Food Safety and Inspection Service announced. Right, so they're recalling, they're in 80-pound box and a 10-pound cube. So they're recalling this beef, right? And I think it's meat was shipped direct, distributed center in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. All right. So now important, right? So here's an example why you need some regulation inspection. Because, as I say, human beings are either sometimes doing dumb stuff or they're corrupt. So when you have a situation like this, you need somebody. You can't say let the consumer or the market decide. Because by the time the market decides, there's dead people. You don't want the people to be poisoned or to be killed via some other way here other than food poisoning. To say let the market decide, because by then it's too late. You have dead bodies. Why create dead bodies? And I know somebody who would say, oh no, the regulators are killing me. Yeah, because they don't want you to kill people. You see, it's just simple. It's not a problem with regulation. It's a problem with corrupt regulation. It's a problem with being just wicked. That's the problem. So the ground beef, it is good to recall it because by the time this would have gotten to the consumer in Georgia and Florida and all those places, places that people normally don't like regulations, right? Um, then what will happen is that there will be dead bodies. So you cannot have a libertarian principle because of this. It would be a free for all, and there'll be a lot of dead people. And the reason why you know that, and if you don't know, I'm gonna tell you why they like to talk about libertarianism, because they did a lot of wickedness and they want to get away with it. That's all. And they're doing wickedness and they want to get away with it. Another example here, which we had mentioned in the beginning, is the FDA lists of hand sanitizer to avoid grows again with more than 100 identified that may contain methanol. So this is a new updated list. And I'd mentioned it earlier before that the list is growing. I can't read it here, but methanol is a toxic substance when absorbed through the skin or ingested, and it can cause death ultimately, but it will damage the nervous system. It could cause blindness and damage to the retina and all that. So methanol is something that's bad. So this is why you need regulators. You can't say, well, let the consumer decide. So, well, you know what happened? I used this thing and I was going blind, so I decided not to use it anymore. No, you don't wait until that. You have somebody come and say, no, we need to take this thing off the market. This thing is dangerous. That's what regulation is. But when people, and I think many times you have a history where they want to be able to run crazy, do cowboy stuff and all that type of thing. They have a problem with any type of anything called regulation. And they don't want no regulation to stop them or no regulators to stop them. So here we have another example of why you have to have some type of regulation. There's another article that I just gonna mention it because I don't think it's so long I can't get into it, but I'm gonna read it here because remember we're talking about with Leviticus that you ought to love the stranger as yourself. So it's an example here, and it's worth looking at if you have time. It's a very long article, but beautiful article. Well, not beautiful, but good article to read. But it's entitled "Lured to America, Then Trapped." So Lured to America and then trapped. And it's a visa for farm workers have surged under Trump, but the program has subjected some workers to horrific abuse. And this is in NBC News. And it's worth reading. So it sits under Trump. You remember Trump came in and he's going to get rid of all foreigners and all that because the jobs need to go to Americans. And what all has happened is that a certain type of visa has blown up. They're giving out a lot of visas for workers to come over and pick the stuff that Americans are supposed to be picking, which this was makeup stuff, just pure wickedness. But what happened, the workers now are suffering abuse because the conditions they're working under are immoral and unkind, cruel. For some of the pictures that are in the article, just didn't look good. So it's worth reading that because remember how we started out this. Oh, we're gonna get rid of all these foreigners and we're gonna deport them. And while Trump was one of the biggest, not the biggest in the volume, but he had all these foreigners and illegal people working at his resorts. And now under him, there's more visas given out. Right. So why this article is important? Because it's important for the media to be that watchdog also, so that you don't have a free market and a free for all where people are being abused and nobody's is doing anything about it. You see, the problem to me wasn't, when I look back at history, it wasn't a matter of slavery or Jim Crow or the war on drugs. It was a matter of that it was not enough people that were willing to say, no, you need to stop that. That was the problem. It was not enough often. There was always people who were abolitionists, and there were people who were against the war on drugs. There's people against Jim Crow. But often it was too much conspirators who thought it was great. And today we still have the same problem. We know this was a lie from the get-go. There was no, how are you going to be a person that run hotels and resorts that depend upon migrant workers and depend upon foreigners and illegal? How are you going to be the biggest advocate against illegal immigrant, where your wives are illegal immigrants and all this type of stuff and foreigners? How are you gonna be the biggest advocate for the thing that you're doing? It didn't make no sense, right? And the long term, it was just a lie, a ploy to fool up people who are, again, the consumers. Ooh, they weren't able to choose, let the market decide. Because remember, the consumers who voted for this and really believe this are consumers in places like West Virginia and Kentucky who thought they were going to get back their coal jobs because that's what they were told. But the history had shown that he wasn't going to give them back their job. He don't care about those people. But they're not sophisticated enough to see that. So to always say let the consumer decide and the open market decide, you can see in this situation, even picking a president, it's very difficult to have people that are not informed about a city slicker and a con man to choose the right thing for the society. So you need regulation. You need like the news media to put material out there to say, look, this is a lie here. This is wrong what's going on. This is wrong what these big companies are doing, ripping off the American public. Because without that, how do you protect? So it to me wasn't a matter of, did these bad things happen? To me, the problem was, where was the righteous? Where was the news media? Where were the rebels? Where were the protesters who were going to protest these wicked system? The problem was not that said down south had slaves. The problem was that they would seem like there was nobody that was righteous down south. That was going to say, brethren, we need to stop doing this madness. What we're doing here. But there was not that. And I think that's always the problem. So that's why if you hear me talking to you, I'm hoping I'm communicating to somebody to say, we are not supposed to partake of these things, invest in these things. We're not supposed to do these things. And we're supposed to be against these things. And we need to protest these things. This is what we're supposed to do. Because the history is, there was never seemed to be enough people to say, brethren, we need to stop doing this. We had churches that never read some of the texts that I already read here. It seemed like they never read them. They never talk about them. Because I was in church for years and I never heard any preacher talk about these things. I never, if you didn't read the Bible, if I didn't read the Bible for myself, I would never knew that they were in the Bible. Because they never talk about it. They act as if it don't exist. And that's what's missing. Again, there's another example that I'm running out of time here, but it says this is in NBCnews.com, 6 former Houston police officers indicted in a botched drug raid that left 2 dead. In 2019 raid came under scrutiny after police alleged Officer Gerald Goins lied in a warrant that an informant had bought heroin at a home. So he lied in a warrant, get the warrant, kill 2 people at the house. Pure wickedness. So if there's no oversight, because someone, it's the police, because notice the attitude, especially of conservative, it's the police, they're perfect human beings, they're like little angels. And when they murder people, it can't be that they're doing drug dealing, and it can't be that they're corrupt. Like really, like they're human beings. Is someone have a badge on that makes them not human beings? Human beings are sinners. You have to have oversight. Without regulation. Because if you apply the free market principle to the police or to the CIA, the FBI, forget about it. We know the history of what happened in South America, Central America. We know the history. The history is very clear. No oversight. Forget about it. It's dead bodies and murders of innocent people. Non-stop. It's blood sport. It's murder for fun. That's what goes on. This is the history. There's no other history that happened. This is our history. Human beings are sick when they're left without any oversight. And so you see this police, but in our society, the police they're perfect, they never do right. Really? When? You know somebody that's perfect? And so how are we going to apply the fact that everybody you know around you is a bunch of sinners and crazy people? But you think because they have a badge, they're going to be perfect now? Not going to be so. You got to have regulations, and you cannot have a libertarian principle. Anything to do with libertarianism is madness. Pure foolishness. And that's why I think like Ron Paul is from Texas. He's pro-libertarian. Because those people down there, it's just a lot of evil. But they make it sound, we're righteous because we need to leave the people alone. No, we need to regulate them. Police need to be regulated. That's why these police, if you read the article, I give it to you there that you can read it. You can see they need to be indicted. It seemed very corrupt what they were doing. And somebody said, no, that's a 1 in a million police. But you can't find me a 1 in a million righteous person. So what does it tell me? People need to be regulated. If the societies are sinners, what do you expect when they go to their work? They're going to be sinners just the same way. Oh no, because they're police, they're superhumans. They're more like Jesus. Not so. We need regulation. We don't need no libertarian principle. We just need good regulation and fair regulation. That's all. We need the FDA to do its job and do its job fair. and we get good results. We want to talk about more tomorrow. We're going to make it clearer. So libertarian principle don't work. Don't follow it. People are sinners. They need regulation. Let's pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you for your blessings in our lives, the blessings of your word. Be with us, dear Lord, as we walk humbly before thee. It is truly, dear Lord, not repeat the past, the history that has gone by behind us. And let us learn from that history, dear Lord. And we pray, dear Father, that we might be faithful to thee in all that we do. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow morning, where we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.